Hello, folks. Welcome. I'm Jen. We're a couple minutes before the top of the hour, and so we're just going to allow folks to come in. And of course, let us know where you're coming in from in the chat. And because we're going to be sharing some accessibility strategies, which we hope your teams will adopt as habits, let's do your favorite life actions you've made a habit. So welcome. Come on in, folks. Yes, please let us know where you're joining from. It's always fun to see places all over the world. Oh, I love it. She made her bed today. Yeah.
Woohoo!
Woo. One of the habits I've developed is prepping my coffee the night before. I'm never in the mood to make it the morning of. Yes, welcome everyone.
Jen, that
Um,
used to be a habit that I loved until my husband decided he wanted to start being like a little fancier and make
oh,
French press, which he
yeah,
makes every morning for me and it's lovely. But there are some mornings where he's not there and I flounder. It's
I would
embarrassing,
imagine.
but I flounder. So I love your setting the coffee the night before. Great habit.
It is, and I'm not one to be particularly into fancy coffee. I wish I was, but a little drip just does me fine.
Hmm. That diner coffee, it's just
Yeah, I know.
how it is. Oh, Natalie, love that.
Love it. Krista also sets her coffee up the night before.
Oh, picking out
Morning
work.
habit, walk 3 laps around the block with hubby. Oh, I love that one. Welcome. As everybody's getting settled, please let us know where you're coming in from and one life action you've made into a habit. Um, we are going to uh, start here momentarily. Our webinar today is Welcome to Accessibility That Lasts, Sustainable Strategies for Canvas Courses. Before we dive in, let's talk some logistics. We are recording today, so if that's of a worry, that is always our MO. We will always record our webinar and we will pass it along to you in a few days with all of the helpful resources that we share. You're welcome to use the chat throughout the webinar. In fact, we encourage it and we love our lively chats. However, if you do have specific questions about what you see or what we talk about, please submit those in the Q&A feature in Zoom. We don't want those questions getting lost in the chat. My colleagues Natalie and Claire will be monitoring the Q&A area and will answer as many questions during the webinar as possible. And we also hope to have a few minutes at the end of the webinar to answer some of your questions live. So if this is your first time joining one of our webinars, welcome. We are thrilled that you are here. Let me take just a minute to tell you a little more about Cidi Labs. Cidi Labs was founded out of a partnership with Utah State University, where Kenneth Larson, our co-founder, was working as an instructional designer. He was given permission to hack Canvas and started making the first iteration of what would later become Design Plus. Over the years, our team has grown with educators and instructional designers, as well as a few former customers who are drawn to improving the learning experience for everyone. We have 6 products that we offer for the Canvas LMS, from accessibility to course life cycle management. All of these tools have been developed in close partnership with universities and our customers. Today, we'll be sharing and showing brief demonstrations of 3 of our products, Design Plus, You Do It, and Ready Go. We'll show you a few features and how each tool can help support sustainable accessibility practices within Canvas. Let me quickly introduce myself. I'm Jen Leckie, one of the regional sales directors here at Cidi Labs. Hello to all my friends that I've had the privilege to work with over the years. I see a lot of you in chat. We have other City Lab team members also on our call, and if they haven't already, um, give a shout out in the chat and say hi to everyone. And now I'm excited to hand it over to your presenters today. Please welcome Stephanie, who is our product marketing manager, and Jess, who is one of our amazing customer success managers here at City Labs. So, Stephanie, what are you and Jess going to be diving into today?
Yeah, thanks, Jen. So today we are focusing on sustainable practices for designing and delivering accessible Canvas courses. So especially given the updated Title II rules first deadline, just days away, not making you all panic. We know that many institutions have been hard at work on course accessibility, from initiating a large scale course reviews to building and delivering extensive training to putting in hours to improve accessibility across your Canvas instance. And now maybe you're seeking ways to protect your progress, to reinforce good habits, and make accessibility kind of an inherent, ongoing part of course creation, not another massive lift down the road. But perhaps others of you are just kicking off an accessibility journey, and you're here for ideas on how to start on a strong path with course accessibility through things like proactive routines and sustainable strategies. So, we'd actually love to know a bit about where you are to guide some of our kind of quick comments today. So, we're going to launch a poll in Zoom right now. You can select from the options about where you are on the journey toward more accessible Canvas courses. So, let's go ahead and throw that poll up. You can see there are a couple options. If none of those fit you quite right, you can select other and feel free to share in the chat if you'd like. But are you just getting going and looking to start strong? Are you making progress but hoping to pick up momentum? Are you making steady progress and looking to keep it up? Have you made significant progress and you're celebrating and now focused on continuous improvement or other? Let us know, select an option, and we'll see where we're at today with our team. So as we're waiting for that popcorn to finish popping, this we want to say is a topic we're really passionate about at City Labs because we believe accessibility really does matter. So thanks for joining us and allowing us to share some of the major ideas we pulled from our research-backed series called Accessibility Matters and our conversations with customers. Our goal today is to equip you with practical ideas for accessibility that lasts in Canvas, ideas that move accessibility from an initiative to an of course. And so let's see where we are and how we can support you best today. Okay, it looks like our highest percentages are everyone sort of very much in the working on it zone, right? We are making progress, whether we're getting started on that progress, but we're seeing it, or we're making steady progress and looking to keep it up. Some of you are in that significant progress and celebrating phase. A few of you as well, just getting going. We will hope to cover a lot of bases today to support all of you. So thank you so much for sharing.
Yes, so throughout that Accessibility Matters series, one key idea that consistently came up for how to truly move the needle on course accessibility long term. And that key idea is to create courses that are, drum roll, accessible by design. When we talk about creating courses that are accessible by design, we mean building in accessibility from the very beginning, not adding it on later. It's about making intentional choices as you create your content so that all students can engage with it right away.
Yep, absolutely. Honestly, that's it, people. We're gonna just end the webinar now. Like that was the key idea. Take it, go. We know you're used to this whole hour production from City Labs, jam-packed with info, but you got it. See ya. No, seriously though, if you take anything away from today's webinar, it's that the sustainable path is one where good course design is, of course, accessible course design, that those two are together and that they are not, separate layers to add on.
Yeah, no, we definitely won't leave you hanging. We know there are follow-up questions like, Why should we create courses that are accessible by design? And that's because design matters. You might recall a previous series about that. When we design with accessibility in mind from the start, we can catch those accessibility issues early and hopefully avoid them altogether. Contrast that with a reactive approach where accessibility becomes something you deal with after the course is built. But the problem is by then, students may have already run into barriers to learning. And as the instructor or the instructional designer, this kind of reactive approach usually means more work, more time, and even more compliance concerns. So instead of reacting to issues, the goal is to be more proactive and prevent them in the first place.
Yeah. And after hearing that key idea for course accessibility that lasts is creating courses that are accessible by design, another follow-up question you have is surely, what about all the existing accessibility issues in our Canvas courses, Stephanie? We're not throwing all our course content out, crazy Cidi Labs webinar people. It's fairly, a valid question. So if that is your question, it's one we would argue back. You want to employ a dual track approach. So many institutions have been hard at work remediating existing content. But if we only focus on fixing backward, educators and designers may just be piling up retroactive work forever. So the habit shift comes by layering in that forward thinking track, right? By designing accessibly every time you hit the edit button in Canvas. And if these two questions, the why and the what about existing content, are your primary questions about accessibility for your institution, please know that we have a wealth of resources that were designed to help you ground your action in research and build a practical strategy in Canvas. You can check out our accessibility resource matching guide, which, by the way, is built in Canvas using our tool Design Plus. So this is a Canvas page and it's interactive, it's engaging. You can use it to self-check, you can access the research, and then you can also use the little accordions to find resources directly matched to one of these areas where you may need a little additional support. We also have, again, if those were your primary questions, we also have our entire Accessibility Matters series available in a playlist on our webinars page. So you can go review those recordings on a variety of topics, from managing accessibility initiatives. That one's full of jokes about panic cleaning, to keep it real for you, to accessibility myth busting, to time-saving tips and more. So with all of that, when we take all this in, let's think about one more question in response to our key idea. What question remains, Jess?
Yeah, the how. So the key is designing for accessibility from the very beginning and building it into every step rather than trying to retrofit it later. But that leaves us with this big question of how do we actually make that happen?
Yep, the how. And because we're after a sustainable accessibility model, we want to focus on habit building, since habits are what will shift course accessibility from an initiative to an of course. Kind of like Jen's coffee is ready every morning because she has the habit of setting it up the night before, right? We want that kind of habit building. And so today we're going to group actionable strategies into three main habit buckets. We've got communication habits, design habits, and maintenance habits. And while the habits and strategies we'll share are ones that anyone can use in Canvas, we will also showcase today some ways that Cidi Labs tools are designed to help make those habits and the corresponding actions easier, faster, and more streamlined for everyone involved, from your admin to your designers to your educators. And if you're not familiar with our tools, or if you're only familiar with a few, here's a quick rundown of which products you'll see in action today. First, UDoIT Advantage is our Canvas Course Accessibility Assistant that not only helps you scan your course content and files for accessibility issues, it also allows for a highly efficient remediation process and provides really robust data about accessibility in and across your courses. Next, you'll see Design Plus, which is our must-have toolset for Canvas course design. When creating accessible courses from the start is the goal. Remember, that's the goal. Design Plus makes that task easy and fun by helping you design right inside of Canvas with lots of accessibility considerations built right in. We'll also highlight Ready Go, our course lifecycle management tool that helps coordinate projects, people, and communication needed to design and deliver quality courses right alongside key Canvas and Cidi Labs data. Now, time for the habits, right? Without any further ado, let's get started by exploring how communication habits play into a sustainable accessibility approach and talk through strategies for communicating in a sustainable way. Jess, can you shed some light on why communication habits are important for a sustainable approach to Canvas course accessibility?
Yes, of course, I'm happy to. So now that it's April and the accessibility deadline has arrived for many of us, we're realizing that accessibility is an ongoing effort. It isn't a one and done checklist, it's really more of a journey. Students' accessibility needs can change from semester to semester, and each time a new instructor teaches a course, or a course is updated, or a new course is offered, we need to reshare those expectations, provide guidance, and offer support. That's why communication habits matter. Regular, clear communication helps everyone know what's expected, what support is available, and how to address accessibility issues. It also builds a culture where accessibility is a part of day-to-day course design rather than an afterthought. So think of it kind of like accessibility PR. So sharing updates and progress shows instructors and designers that accessibility matters, encourages engagement, and supports continuous improvement.
Totally. And so let's break this down into what are some communication strategies then, and how can those be accomplished and supported in Canvas? So first, just want to say it's really critical to get into your data to assess the state of accessibility at regular intervals and then communicate about it. For institutions that have had some focused efforts on accessibility recently, I saw, a lot of you in the poll said you've been making steady progress. Be sure to celebrate progress and then be sure to outline new or continued goals, right? A key here is to make your goals tangible, actionable, and manageable. And communication plays a major role in taking a vague or massive concept like make your courses accessible, everyone, and helps convert it into progress. Second, you'll want to make sure your institution communicates about the realities of the accessibility journey. And this is a key one when you're thinking about the sustainable movement forward. As Jess described, there are these kind of key moments or things that can happen, like spikes in error counts and dips at a new term, right? And understanding and explaining proactively that these are a normal part of the journey can set expectations and manage frustrations or concerns. And so for this type of communication, one strategy would be like a global announcement at the beginning of a term. And that can be really effective, especially if it includes key links to the institution's accessibility goals, support resources, and reminders about any tools that are available for checking and fixing those accessibility issues. It's also really critical to remind everyone that designing for accessibility is an ongoing process. So beyond just that like global announcement, accessibility expectations and reminders need to be built into things like your course preparation checklists, into your template use instructions. They need to be built into your professional development. Think about it this way. Wherever we are talking about course building and designing, we also should be talking about accessibility. So to showcase some key ways Cidi Labs tools can help, Jess and I are going to hop into a little role play here. Imagine I'm in an admin role, and Jess is in an instructional designer role. Jess comes to me with a problem. What's the problem, Jess?
Yeah, so our course shells for next semester just generated, and I'm getting a flood of emails from instructors saying that their course accessibility scores are super low. They thought they were done, and they were last semester, but now they're teaching new courses that haven't been reviewed yet, and suddenly it feels like we're back at square one.
Okay, let me process. Are you saying our accessibility scores dipped and our error counts might have spiked? I was just prepping to talk to the academic senate about our progress from last term. I'm deep breathing.
I mean, technically, yes, but here's the thing. Accessibility is like brushing your teeth. You can't just do it once and forget about it. If you don't brush your teeth, you could get buildup and plaque and maybe even cavities. And this also applies to course accessibility. So just because a course was accessible last semester doesn't mean the next one magically is. You need to go back in, make sure you didn't clutter it up last semester, and make sure anything that you added is or is still accessible.
Okay, so this is a situation. Do you have any suggestions?
I do. I think we should build in some communication that helps make accessibility part of the workflow and not like a panic-inducing sprint at the last minute.
Okay, that's a good idea. Let me go dig into the data and you do it, and then I'll check in on a couple other points in Ready Go and get a sense for the situation, and then let's just start that communication process, okay? All right. So everyone, I'm probably not going to be like deeply in pretend role right now. I'm just talking to you. Here we are hopping over into You Do It at the admin level. And the reason I'm doing this is I want to get a sense for that special situation Jess just mentioned, where we thought we made all this accessibility progress. We dumped new courses in for the new term, maybe some that didn't get cleaned up because they hadn't been taught in the previous term. Where are we? And so I'm in You Do It Advantage admin. And this gives me a really great kind of bird's eye view of what's going on with accessibility at our institution. I can see quickly because I remembered where our score was just recently that 76 is a little lower than it was a few days ago. And I can quickly see that my error count has gone up in a way that I just hadn't quite processed. And so here I am to look at really what's going on. I want to go over to the reports area. And when I go over to the reports, I have access to a variety of report types in UDOIT admin, as well as a variety of durations. So I can kind of hone in on moments and what might have happened. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look over at our issue count, and I'm going to look at the last 30 days. And yeah, sure enough, check out that moment we rolled all those courses over to a new term. We had a spike in our issues. Now I can filter and I can look at the current term and try to like wiggle this data down a little bit, but it is clear that we need some communication and that I want to get a better look at what kind of communication strategy might be needed. And so to do that, I'm actually wanting a little more extra customized data as if this weren't robust enough. I am going to head over into ReadyGo, our course lifecycle management system that allows me to create custom batches of courses and allows me to really drill into data for that custom set. So I'm popping over now, I'm leaving You Do It, and I'm going to go to ReadyGo. So ReadyGo gives me this awesome dashboard. It lets me manage a ton of initiatives that might be going on in my course, preparing courses for a new term, whatever it might be. And I can create batches that could just be, maybe I pull in all the courses for this new term. And I can even exclude all the ones that are kind of random, like they're not the instructor courses, they're like support shells or they're development shells, whatever it might be. I can zero in so I can get a really, really close look at just these courses that we're kind of panicking about. And I can also break it down by department. So maybe whatever kind of batch I wanted to create. So maybe I want to look at the humanities and culture department, and I want to be able to empower the department chair there. So when I select a batch, I've created the batch, then I can come in and I'm looking at this courses table where I have all the courses from the batch, as well as columns of basically spreadsheet data that include key Canvas data and your Cidi Labs tool data. And I can customize the view of these elements. Notice right now, the view that I've chosen to apply to these courses is this accessibility overview. And it has the custom set of columns that I wanted to look at. And I've scrolled over to see, I just want to look at these courses and see what's going on there. And I can see that some of these courses do have a very high error count. And this course that I'm looking at, this world literature course, has 617 errors, and 0 have been manually resolved and 0 have been fixed inside You Do It, which means this instructor hasn't gotten started on that work. But I can see some others, you know what, they have a high error count. This course has 320, but someone's getting in there and doing some work. And so the communication might be slightly different to these different instructors. So what I could do to begin this communication process, now that I'm equipped with data, inside ReadyGo, I have this awesome ability to select various courses, whether it's this entire list, or for me, I'm going to spot check and say, okay, who's got a high error count and who has not gotten started. And I'm going to just select some of these courses here. And then I can use my bulk actions at the top, and I can actually send a message to just these instructors that's tailored to the like, sometimes when we roll over new courses, we have a ton of accessibility issues, but don't forget, we've got a lot of support. Here's a bunch of links, right? So I can make that specific to them, and that'll land in their inbox as a reminder that they got to go back and work on accessibility. I can also utilize chat functionality in this course as well, or inside Ready Go, as well as add some checklists to these courses. So I want to show you a little bit of that, but from a different view. So this is sort of like you imagine maybe the admin view or whatever, but I'm going to pop over into one of the actual courses to show you what it looks like from the instructor side. So I'm going to go see this course in Canvas. Dun, dun, dun. Isn't this one that I'm going to look at? I might look at a different one, everyone, just to make sure it's ready to rock. So if you enable the instructor tool inside ReadyGo, your instructors also have access to some kind of ReadyGo view that enables them to participate in this course building, course quality initiatives, accessibility initiatives, whatever it might be. And I want to highlight something for you. One of the amazing things inside ReadyGo is you can create custom checklists that have tasks that can be assigned to various people. And if I'm the instructor, I can go into ReadyGo and see that I have a semester readiness checklist. And that course we know had a high error count, hadn't gotten started. Makes sense. They haven't even gotten started on their semester readiness checklist, right? That person hasn't quite touched their course yet, it looks like. And so I can also see that in here, that one of the checklist items is to ensure accessibility. Remember, we're communicating accessibility as part of the course building workflow at all times. If I drill down into that task, right, I can see a variety of links. So you're able at your institution to support right alongside the task that you're asking them to undertake. So there's a lot here that's amazing. Oh, I forgot to mention inside that, let's go back, that we can also communicate. So say someone is, the instructor is confused and they're like, I thought I already did accessibility, and they type this message out, and then the instructional designer is flagged inside ReadyGo to like chat back and say, you did last term, this is a new course, so like we've got this, we could do it, right? And we can keep that communication kind of contained on the item that support is needed and point back to those links, etc. What's really cool too is all of this is reportable. So you could always have this kind of audit record of communication that occurs between people inside ReadyGo. Right. Jess, I'm going to pop back over to you because I was doing some tailoring kind of communication, but I think we need some general over, everybody type communication to keep going. So let me hop back over and let you talk through that.
Yeah, of course. So as for, big overview for everyone communication, the first communication habit I'd recommend is posting a global announcement in Canvas. And this can remind instructors and course designers about the course prep checklist and highlight how it helps them create courses that are accessible by design. A clear announcement like this one reaches everyone at once, sets the expectations early, and reinforces that accessibility is an ongoing priority. So it's a really simple step that keeps accessibility top of mind before instructors even start building their courses. So this will help reduce last-minute scrambling and support consistent course quality. So you can even set dates for these in advance so we can schedule them for when we know instructors are going to be working on their courses.
This is great. But I want to note that my eye is really drawn with this. Is this using Design Plus, Jess?
It does. Did you know that you can use Design Plus in global announcements if it's installed at the root account?
Very cool. So if anyone didn't know that and you license Design Plus, you can utilize it in your global announcements. So fun. And Jess, is this in the Design Plus library?
It is on its way as an HTML snippet, so keep an eye out for it in the release notes.
Thank you. So are there any other places we could do some kind of generic communication in Canvas, Jess?
Yeah, so I think the next communication habit I'd recommend is updating your custom welcome message in UDoIt. And this is a great spot to kind of remind instructors about the course prep checklist and maybe even share a quick tip like always run tidy up before you run UDoIt. That way, you won't accidentally spend time making content accessible that students don't even see.
I love that.
Then we probably just need to keep track of how instructors are doing these things like you showed and ready to go.
Perfect. All right. So that, I guess, brings us to our next habit, Jess.
Yeah, so on to our next topic, which is design habits. So when we say design habits, we're really talking about the small, repeatable choices you make every time you build or update your course. This includes things like how you structure your pages, how you format content, and how you think about accessibility as you're creating, not just after the fact. Okay, design habits are important because if what you want to build in a course is accessible from the start, you'll ideally have fewer remediation steps later. But more than that, good design habits actually address the root of accessibility issues. So instead of fixing things after the fact, you're preventing barriers before students even ever encounter them. So that means fewer learning barriers overall, and it also makes your work more efficient, sustainable, and cost effective over time because you're not constantly going back to fix the same kinds of issues. So, Stephanie, do you want to talk about a bit more about some of the strategies for good design habits?
Yeah, let's do it. So, what are some real strategies for supporting accessible design habits in Canvas? First, you want to promote the habit of creating content in Canvas wherever appropriate, and the habit of moving content that is maybe in accessible documents into Canvas. Again, where appropriate. And if you're wondering why, well, Canvas itself supports a large number of accessible content creation practices through the rich content editor once you know what those practices are, such as using headings and adding alternative text to images, right? So that those accessibility, that functionality is built right into Canvas. And that brings us to then our second strategy here, which is the need to really prioritize accessible design understanding. So you may have already been hard at work at implementing training at your institution, but remember from our previous topic, you have so much variability across an institution, and ongoing training is likely needed. You may have new instructors who've been recently hired who didn't go through your amazing training that you provided, right? Or it may be someone who like took it in a little bit, applied it, but didn't like consistently keep it in their mind. We've all studied for a test and then forgotten the information later, okay? And so we want to continue to really prioritize that design understanding because you can't have people building accessible content in Canvas if they don't know how to build accessible content in Canvas. And so another strategy we love to recommend here because it's proven to work with research is that you can leverage flexible templates. And again, I think this is like a major sustainable, efficient strategy because it multiplies like a singular effort, right? Building that template across an entire institution. And templates can contain many accessibility considerations already built in. So the template reduces work for anyone who uses it. Plus, you can use templates as a mechanism for actually embedding professional development and support right where it's needed most, right? If they're supposed to like replace an image, a placeholder image, that's a great place to remind them about adding alternative text to images because they're actually doing the action that they have to have the information for. And while we think those strategies can help support the habits, we all know that if a strategy is challenging to implement, that can really doom the habit formation, right? If Jen's like setting up her coffee the night before that she mentioned was this like immense task, she might not get into the habits. It might not be worth the effort, right? And so this is where Cidi Labs tools can help by reducing that complexity, the steps that it takes to complete various portions of these habitual processes. So let's start by tackling the strategy I mentioned about turning the inaccessible course documents into Canvas content. It's totally a more sustainable approach in the long run, but without like a magic button to do that work for me as an instructor, it feels like it can become one of those, I'll get to it type of tasks. So Jess, can you show how you do it? Makes converting course documents into Canvas pages not a one-day task, but a one-click task.
I would love to, Stephanie.
Thanks.
Okay. So over here, UDoIt is great for converting simpler PDFs into pages. So if we head over to UDoIt, We have this lovely welcome page, and look, we have another sample welcome message here for us. We have a nice introduction. We have our homepage with our scorecard, our You Fix It tab with all of our Canvas content that we'll review. And then Stephanie wanted to know about our Canvas page conversions. So let's check that out. So we have a list of all of our files. I filtered by PDFs, so I can only see those. If I come over here and I choose review, I'll get a nice pop-up menu over here. And when it loads, it will load. I have faith in the technology. And we'll have a nice little pop-up window again, and we'll be able to come in and review that course file with the review tab, and it should open and load for me. Yes, okay. So we have our PDF here. We have the option to request a Canvas page. So we want to make this accessible by requesting that Canvas page. We can request it, it will process and also convert that HTML file for me. And then once that processes, we'll end up with another situation over here. So we'll let that do its thing. But over on this page, we'll come over, we'll find a PDF that we already created that Canvas page for. And apparently I didn't refresh you do it well recently enough. So that's my bad. Before the webinar was not recent enough. So if we come over to review course styles, we'll search for the PDF that we made into a Canvas page. We'll choose review. And now we can see that we've requested that Canvas page. We can go view the original if we wanted to do that. So we can see that we have a plain old PDF with some criticisms in there. And then we can also come over to the little kebab menu next to the alternate formats for the Canvas page. We can view what it turned that PDF into for me. So it looks very much the same, kind of plain though. It has full headings throughout. That's nice. The table looks pretty good. So that's good, but we can probably do better though, right?
I mean, maybe, we might have the tools for that.
Yeah, we might know something that can help us with that. So if we come over to another page where we've design plusified that same content, we have, a nice heading here. We have a little time indicator to tell us about how long it'll take to read that content. And we've broken it down into the major headings. So the introduction, conclusion, and each of the criticisms that the author goes through. And then we have the citation at the bottom. I added that, but a good addition, I think. So we have all of that right on this Canvas page. It's more friendly for students to kind of go through here and be able to access that super easily.
Awesome. Love that, Jess. Yeah, and that convert to Canvas page just puts the accessibility work into the familiar rich content editor. But we always love to show a little design plus because hopefully it was a compelling reason just looking at the adjusted design of that reading. But speaking of design plus, our must-have design toolset for Canvas, I want to show you all how Design Plus is really the ultimate tool to support that habit of designing accessible content from the start. So I'm going to shift over to a blank Canvas page here. I'll drop down my course nav so we have a lot of viewing space, and I'm going to hop into Edit. I just want to talk a little bit about how this tool is functioning to support accessible design, as we mentioned, right from the start. And one of the ways that Design Plus does that is by kind of coding in the background for you key elements and key accessibility principles. So if I were using the Design Plus sidebar that launches for me next to my Canvas content, I can add a whole lot of style and accessibility by selecting a theme. And it's going to remember the last theme I was using, but I can also come down and change my themes. I can select from themes that were provided by Cidi Labs, but my institution can also create custom themes. And so style is fun. However, accessibility is living behind this. If I place my cursor in this heading, I can see that it was automatically set at a heading 2, which lives under the heading 1, which is the page title that Canvas would have. And so that is going to be an accessible setup. From there, if I wanted to keep, building out additional content, I can add another content block. Again, it's going to inherit that styling automatically. And typically this styling is your branding colors coming in and being applied. And what's cool is these are being applied in accessible color contrast combinations for you. So your users don't have to be an expert in knowing if your, blue can go on a white background or on a black background or whatever, right? Those combinations are happening for you in the background. And then you'll notice here, when I added a content block, the tool was smart and said that lives underneath the, overall heading and put that at a heading 3. And so you're getting all these like built-in accessibility supports for you as you're working. Additionally, we talked earlier about templates, and you can use the Design Plus Quick Start Wizard to give templates to your users. That way they don't even have to open the sidebar and learn the sidebar in order to access accessible templates. But I'm going to show you from the sidebar as well that we can just drop template content in on existing content and then move that content up, or on a blank page, whatever we might want. And we can choose from a variety of templates right inside where we're editing. We don't have to go up to Canvas Commons and pull down a whole module when we only needed one page or whatever it might be. We just get the content that we need. And what's really cool about these Design Plus templates, remember, is you can build in accessible habits. And you can also build in support. So if I were coming down maybe to general and I select this compare and contrast piece here, I've got this awesome template that is set up with columns and cards so I can do a nice visual compare and contrast for my learners. These columns are accessible rather than using a table for a layout that communicates to my screen reader users like tabular data is coming. No, it was not. I was just trying to style stuff. I've also got the ability to add in what I think is really critical. Remember, we were talking about design habits and communication habits. They're coming together right here when you can add what are called our action items. So Design Plus has the ability to add action items like this editor only note that's perfectly placed near a video to remind them, this is our guide for using media on Canvas. Remember, you need to add captions. The top of the template features an action item that's our checklist, where your users can go through the actual checklist. And if I bop this down, and let's just close out my sidebar, I'll actually save it to show you. You saw those action items, but notice on save, you don't see them. And this is the key. The action items are hidden only for editors. So they're like secret support that you could just place wherever you need it and don't have to worry that your learners are going to see like the secret communication you're doing with your educators and anyone else. And when I open up the action items, I can see the checklist items here. I can access the links and I can even preview those. So really, really helpful stuff for helping everyone design accessibly right from the start. All right. So let's round out with our last habit here, Jess.
Yes, so far we have talked about communication habits and designing for accessibility from the start. The third piece of creating accessibility that lasts is maintenance habits. Because even with great design and strong communications, courses aren't static. Content gets updated, instructors make changes, and new materials are added over time. Maintenance habits are those simple, ongoing practices that help us keep accessibility on track. So instead of starting over each semester, we're making small, consistent updates that help keep our courses accessible as they evolve. So why are maintenance habits so important? First, they reduce overwhelm. So instead of trying to fix everything all at once, we're spreading the work into smaller, more manageable steps over time. Second, they help us catch missed issues. So even with the best tools and intentions, some things can slip through, especially as courses change. So together, these habits make accessibility more sustainable. It becomes part of the routine, not something we only think about when there's a deadline.
You're totally right, Jess. So let's now round out our strategies for today as well. In order to reduce potential for buildup or carryover of issues, like the sudden uptick in accessibility issues from old courses when they're being rolled into a new term, that piece we kind of role played earlier, it's a good idea to clear any unused course files and content at the end of a course because what you actually used is still fresh in your mind, right? You know what you taught, you know what you used that term. Let's get rid of the clutter. It's a really good time to do that. If you like wait till after the summer, you're like, what did I do? I mean, hopefully you've been able to like decompress enough that you might have forgotten a little bit about what you did last term. But I want to say this for the sake of not giving our audience too much tool demo whiplash today. We aren't going to showcase Tidy Up. That's our course cleanup tool for Canvas. But if you're not familiar with Tidy Up, know that we have a tool that lets you surface and delete unused course files and content in bulk. It gets pretty amazing how easy this simple tool is to use and how effective it is at finding all that stuff that you might spend precious time remediating when you didn't even need to because students were never going to see it. And so all of that's kind of like bulk deletion at the touch of a button. It's very, very cool. But let's focus back on strategies. It's also a good idea to run a course-wide accessibility check throughout a term, not just at the beginning. Why? As Jess has mentioned multiple times, many instructors are creating, editing, updating content throughout a term. And so spot checks are actually a quick and easy way to know you're keeping the learning experience accessible and just making sure things didn't slip through the cracks. And finally, this is my favorite maintenance habit of them all. Scan before saving. I totally borrowed this from an awesome former colleague of mine, and if you've been in our webinars, you've probably heard me say it a couple times, but it's a really time efficient overall to check for accessibility every single time you hit the edit button before you hit the save button. This way you catch potential problems before they're actually issues, right? So scan before saving. If someone else mentioned borrowing the branding, like borrow that branding if you need it to help get it stuck in people's mind. It's a mnemonic. Let's get a habit going, right? And so we mentioned getting in the habit of running a course-wide accessibility check, of course, at the beginning of a term, but also at strategic or consistent moments. However, if you don't have a tool that helps you spot check efficiently, that habit can kind of feel like opening an unruly can of worms. And so that's where UDoIT Advantage, our course accessibility assistant, can help with its really flexible and efficient workflow functionality. So I'm going to pop over to UDoIT Advantage now. So I know we're like, which tool are we talking about? We're talking about UDoIT. And I'm going to head there now at the course level. And so UDoIT Advantage, if I'm at the course level, I'm an instructor, I can have it live right in my course navigation and I can access it. And we've seen this home screen before. Jess said this is where maybe at an admin level, you've dropped a helpful communication piece for your instructors. Once they've kind of gotten used to it, they can continue. If they're, midterm, they just pop right in. They know UDoIT, they know what to do. But what I want to show you today is just a couple key things that help make that spot checking really efficient. And so one way you can help make your spot checking really efficient is you're looking at your accessibility score. Hopefully, if you've already checked accessibility at the beginning of the term, we're not at 66, but put that aside for a moment and say we drill into our issues that might be remaining. One amazing thing is that if you had, say, created a new page in your course and you made an error on it and it was a page that you put into like every module. You were like, oh, I learned in a professional development about the functional use of a module outro page. And then you made an accessibility issue on it and then you duplicated it. Guess what? You've got a whole set of accessibility issues. Now, never fear about having to go and edit every single one of those and fix them individually and one by one. In UDoIT, these spot checks are much more efficient. I can say, check out what's going on with my images. Why do I have 23 issues? And if I were to sort this in a way that I thought I had already sorted it, love that. Okay, here's all my module wrap-ups, right? If these were the things that I needed to spot check, I can see, yeah, look, I had an issue on module wrap-up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, because I loved that page and I duplicated it. I can review that image issue. Awesome. My sync failed. Me too, Jess. I guess I didn't refresh. Too many tools. This is the problem, people. We're doing so much good work in here. It's mad at us. Let's see if it'll be less mad at me now. Da, 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 da. It might still be mad at me, and you're going to hear me. Oh, no. Yes. Thank you. You do it. Oh, it's a good little tool. Okay. So I got really excited about module outro pages and wanted to add like a really humanizing, silly, fun flair to it. And I put this ridiculous pineapple image to celebrate with my students that they made it to the end of the module. Remember, I duplicated that issue a bunch of times because guess what? I forgot to put alt text on that image. So I could update this with alt text, like I could say like pineapples celebrating with balloons or whatever. I could also recognize this is probably just like a silly decorative image, mark it, but check this out. I can apply the fix to all 9 of those images. I'm not having to worry about going to each one of those pages and identifying them individually and remembering and keeping track of like, did I do 7? I thought I did 7, right? And so I can save that and I can move on if I have any additional images. It's also really just effective workflow because you can stay locked in on one type. So if you've just released a training for everyone about alternative text, your users can come in and review all these image issues one after the other, not page by page, not getting confused and sidetracked by now having to talk about headings or having to think about captions. They just clear out all the images so that hard work you put into your training gets paired with action. Now, the second spot check I want to talk about that's really efficient with UDoIT. If I come back to my home screen here, we have additional ways to get started that allow you to tailor the workflow to the needs. Say you were just alerted that you have a student in your course who needs some kind of visual accommodation. You might not be an expert on all the visual issues that might exist in your course or all the things that you need to, essentially spot check to ensure that that course is helpful for your learner and is accessible for them. So I can utilize in UDoIT this ways to get started by impact type. And I can choose from issues related to visual needs, issues related to auditory needs to clear out those issues. So again, I mentioned for that student that has visual needs, I could go ahead and get started, and I'm only shown all the issues that might be related to visual accommodations. And so this is such an empowering way to spot check versus like, oh my God, let me go through every single thing in my course. So hopefully all of that lets you understand how UDoIT is not just like a course-wide revelation about issues, it allows actual course-wide remediation.
Okay, Stephanie, that's fantastic. I think we've all been in the position where we've copied a page and we just didn't even think about accessibility of it and then created a million issues for ourselves.
Yep.
But remember, I think the whole point of this webinar was to create courses that are accessible by design. So I'm wondering if there's a way to maybe look at these a little bit more proactively.
Oh, glad you asked, Jess. Of course. Even if it's sorry, everyone. Whew. Hopefully you don't end up doing what I was describing and sprinkling accessibility issues throughout your course accidentally. Our tool Design Plus can really help you with that third habit we talked about here, that third strategy, that scan before saving. So that's where Design Plus really comes in with its set of robust accessibility checkers right where you're editing. Jess, can you take over and show everyone that piece?
I would love to. Okay, so for example, let's say I just casually copied this page into my new course because I had it in a course last semester and I really, really loved it. So I wanted to include it in my course this semester because they're similar. But it has some less than ideal things happening on it, accessibility wise. I'm not sure if you can spot them now or not. It looks pretty good from here, right? But let's see if we can improve upon my past self here and see how Design Plus can help us with some of these accessibility issues. Okay, so I've pulled this up and now my headings look all wonky. So in my Design Plus sidebar, I can come over to this accessibility and usability tab. And here we can see when we click that tab, that it's kind of all lit up like a Christmas tree for us. So let's see what we can do here to improve upon our past selves based on what Design Plus is telling us here. So like I said, I just copy and pasted this from last semester. So it's telling me I have some white text on a white background. I didn't even notice that before. And sure enough, look at that. My flashcard heading was just completely white and not even visible. Okay, so now we can go back and move on to our headings now that our text isn't, white on white anymore. And I thought this looked good too, but now it's telling me my focus question heading is an H6. So I have several skipped heading levels there. So I can use these arrows in the sidebar to adjust that to be what it should be. So now that's more accurate. And
Can I
when,
interrupt you for a second, Jess?
yes,
Because I'm obsessed with the heading checker and I can never not talk about it. And you're supposed to have headings make sense in a logical order, and other, accessibility tools might just show you, hey, this heading is off, and you're like, I don't even know. And you might even have headings that are off that are not flagged as accessibility issues. But this is like the reason I love it is I was an English teacher for a long time, and this looks just like an essay outline situation, and it helps people understand like what's going on with headings. So sorry, needed a soapbox.
yes, absolutely. Love that English teacher perspective. All right, so then our next issue over here is the table checker. So for some reason, I past Jess just really wanted this in a table. That doesn't really make sense. We shouldn't be using tables for formatting. I know that. So if I wanted to, I could apply the column or row headers here, but this shouldn't have been a table in the first place. So I'm actually going to choose this button to convert my table into columns so that it's actually, what it should be and what it should have been the whole time. So now that looks better already, and they're even lined up better. So that's a win. And then one of my favorite Design Plus tools over here is under usability external assets. So remember when I mentioned I copy and pasted this page from a prior course, and I did not import this file into this new course because why would I think to do that? So I have this file, it's chapter 1, but it doesn't actually live in this course, so students wouldn't even be able to see it or view it or do anything with it. But I can just choose this import and update button, and it will put that file into this course for me. So I don't have to worry about students not being able to access it. And there we go. We cleared out all of our accessibility issues here, and we can save our page and
We can save because you scanned before saving. Yay! I also love that we're very into communication habits today, but you know what communication habit we're not into? We're not into students emailing Jess over and over again saying they can't access that link, right? That's not the communication habit we're after. So we
right.
love the external assets tool as well.
Love
All
that.
right, everyone. We have walked through a lot of strategies and talking through habits today. We hope that what we showcased was helpful for you in moving your institution forward in protecting the progress that you've made in a really accessible way. So we really hope that those strategies and all of that prove to be something that helps your institution achieve accessibility that lasts.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Stephanie and Jess. We really appreciate you helping give us such great strategies for habit forming accessibility. Hopefully, there's a small nugget or a lot of things from this webinar that you can take back to your teams to help with your accessibility journeys. If you would like to learn more about any of the tools, if you would like pricing information, or just want to chat with us about some strategies, please feel free to use the QR code there on your screen. That will direct you to a form that you can fill out, and we will get back in touch with you. It looks like we've got a few minutes for questions, and it looks like Claire might be typing a question. But if you do have additional questions, please feel free to throw those either into the chat or into the Q&A, and we can take those live.
Yeah, for those who are running Q&A, if you have anything that you noticed was a popular question or remaining questions that need to be showcased.
And also, as a reminder, we did record this session, and we will provide that to you in an email in the next day or so with links to all of the resources that we shared.
I've got a question I'll surface. So
Mhm.
Hi, this is Natalie from Cidi Labs. I won't call it a popular question for this session, but one that I've heard a lot, and I'd love to get y'all's perspective on some of your favorite practices or resources for writing good image alt text.
That's such a good question. Well, for one, we actually have a helper built in, and I don't know if you were trying to get me to talk about that, Natalie, but I
What?
didn't joke. What? No, I'm reading this now, I think. But truly, in that you fix it area, you might have seen this lovely little blue button hiding up in the corner. And we were racing time with all these demos and try not to overwhelm you. But you do it advantage now features Speed Fix It, which is AI assisted remediation workflow. And Speed Fix It incorporates one of the things Natalie was mentioning. If you need a little help writing alternative text for your images, here's actually a used to be a PDF that was converted to a Canvas page. And so now that we've converted it, we actually can use UDoIT to help us make it accessible. Like we love the power play between our tools going on here. But you can see here in Speed Fix It that the image is showing us a alternative text. And honestly, I don't know enough about science to be like, is this good alt text? But I'm like incredibly impressed by whatever this is in relation to this like blurry blue circle on the screen. So that's pretty cool. And you can flip through a couple options and just test them out because the first one might not be great. You can go quickly through a couple options, and if one of them looks good, you can approve it and move on. You can also edit. So you're like, hey, nice job, AI, almost, but I got you for the last 10% of this race. And you can fill in if you're the content expert about atoms and charges, which again, I already mentioned I was an English teacher, so you can imagine that I'm not. But again, a really helpful workflow. And yes, it can assist with that piece where it's like, what even is alternative text? Thanks for that question, Natalie.
Yeah, great question, Natalie. And I'm sure that helped a lot of folks, including myself. I don't see any other questions, and we are right at the hour. Oh, this might be more of a question for tech support. I'm looking at UDoIT Advantage admin, and it appears to only be picking up one or two Canvas shells. Oh, John, great question. Please do reach out to our support team. You can contact them at support@cidilabs.com.
Yeah, and it may be, John, just quickly, there's a filter that says include sub accounts. And so it might be doing a weird thing where like you're at a high account and you would assume that everything should be under there, but then technically everything's shoved into various sub accounts. And so you're only seeing a couple things at like that root account. So there is a filter there. I don't have mine up properly right now to show you, but try that, but certainly reach out to our support team. With that, everyone, as always, you can reach out to our support team. Thank you so much for being here, and hopefully we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.